Happy, what is today? Monday.
It
Happy
is a
Monday,
Monday.
everybody. I don't even know what day of the week it is. I am here today with Christa Clarke.
Hi.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing well.
CC, Christa Clarke, right? And then we're going to do Cubicles to Cocktails.
Yes, ma'am.
I met Krista at the my retreat,
Yes.
my Torture retreat this past May in Mexico. We were both from Houston, so we connected. And I saw her doing a lot of amazing things when she got back from the retreat. How do you feel about the retreat experience?
Oh man, the retreat experience, I feel like I'm still processing a lot that happened, but the retreat experience was phenomenal. I met so many incredible women. I made some fantastic connections, and it lit this fire. I already had a fire in me, but it poured gasoline onto this fire that I already had to just really continue to evolve and to become the woman that, I am and the woman that I'm becoming.
You know, one thing about the retreat, I feel like it made people come back and execute.
Yeah.
You know how you're sitting on ideas, you have all these amazing ideas and concepts on paper, but it's like, okay, no, get off the paper and execute. It made you come back and make things manifest. And I saw that with a lot of people from the retreats. Not that they weren't making the things happen prior to,
right,
but it just lit a different type of fire up under you, even for myself. It made me do some soul searching and some thinking and, being a little more adventurous and trying some different things out of my normal comfort zone. I consider myself a risk taker, but it just made me think outside of the box. Because I met so many amazing people who were doing things in technology and science. And I just thought that was so cool because those aren't industries that we normally are tapped into. So tell me about Cubicles to Cocktails.
Yeah, so Cubicles to Cocktails is my organization that I started. I came up with the idea in 2017. I hosted my first soiree in February 2018. And I started this organization because I was inspired by the conversations I was having over drinks and over happy hours with my friends, my mentors, even my husband. And those were those conversations that I felt were really meaningful and moving my career forward. And so, just being community oriented, that's a value that my parents have instilled into me. Being community oriented, I wanted to form a community of women of color where we could come together, where we could support one another in our career trajectories, but also in our lives. And so that's the heart of Cubicles to Cocktails is that happy hour energy with your girlfriends, but with something very meaningful for life and
substance,
career.
Some real substance.
Yeah, it's not just about gossip.
Yeah, real conversation.
Real conversation.
So those conversations entail career, finance, anything else?
So we've tackled mental health, so imposter syndrome, career finance. We've talked about even how do you align your career to your purpose, and what does that mean to have a purpose-filled career? Because a lot of times, people say chase your passion, and passion and purpose, that to me, I think it's two different things. I think to a lot of people, as you start to mature, you realize that has two different meanings. And then we also, sometimes we just get together for fun. So last year, I hosted the holiday soiree, which was just our women's celebration at the end of the year to really take the time to acknowledge all of our accomplishments and just really send ourselves off into 2019 with energy.
Okay. I want to get back to the passion and the purpose. What is passion to you?
So passion is just something I think that makes you excited. It fuels a fire, it lights a spark in you. And so that could be that you're passionate about reading. It could be that you're passionate about writing. You're passionate about food. I'm passionate about food and drink.
Me too. You're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah. And so I think it's thinking about purpose, though. Purpose is like a mission, so that mission could still fuel and ignite your fire. And so to me, when I think about the reason why I want to align my career to my purpose versus to my passion, because that passion is something that's more intrinsic. It's more so feeding you inwards, whereas that purpose is more so feeding people who you're interacting with, right? And so that's how I hold the difference in my eyes.
So when is your next your next Cubicles to Cocktail event?
Yeah, so Right now, I'm actually I'm in a planning stage. So I implemented my entire calendar for 2019. I'm wrapping up with the Money Talks tour. As far as the next Cubicles to Cocktails event, it would be sometime in 2020, and I'm really looking towards having more frequent, but I guess you could say more organic connection style events. So more pop-up happy hours and mentoring sessions, things like that. Right now, my events have been very pain point driven. Where we tackled money and finances, where we tackled imposter syndrome, where we tackled authentic leadership. And so I'm trying to find that thread to keep that community going outside of those singular touch points of content.
Okay. But you have a new touch point of content. Money Talk.
Yeah. So with the Money Talks was inspired by, once again, going back to the conversations that I had with my girlfriends. In our group, we've helped each other negotiate salaries. We've helped each other to find not homes where we're all renting right now, but to find the best rental deal. We're very transparent about how much we're saving and how we're budgeting. And I realized that in speaking with other women, women aren't very open. They're hesitant to talk about money, and they're especially hesitant to put a dollar figure to money topics. And me being the nerd that I am, I went and started looking at some research on women, money, and conversations, and found that unlike men, of course, they talk about sports and politics, but they talk about money a lot too. Women, the conversations that we typically tend to talk about is relationships, our sex lives, and our careers, but we're not talking about money. And so Money Talks was really inspired about dismantling that taboo. But also, not only are we going to dismantle that taboo and have this conversation, but we're going to learn some topics. So last year we talked about salary negotiation, financial negotiations. This year we focused on the wealth gap. So learning about investing, learning about home ownership, also learning about how to build a sustainable business, because Black women entrepreneurs, 163% growth rate for businesses, but when you look at our revenue, we're making not even $30,000 on average in revenue a year. Whereas if you look at the statistic for all women firms are making on average 100. When I say all women, I mean of all ethnicities.
Right.
150,000 is the average revenue per year, and so that's one of the topics
huge
I wanted
gap.
to tackle.
A huge gap. Yeah, a huge gap. $30,000 and $150,000.
It's a huge
gap.
Yeah.
It's like 5 times the amount. So how do we close that gap?
So I think the ways that we close that gap is by, one, a lot of us are side hustlers nowadays. So not leaving your job prematurely. I know there's this narrative of celebrating when people take that leap, and that should be celebrated, but let's do it smartly. I know at the Money Talks event in Dallas, Kendra James Anderson, the finance femme, she's phenomenal. She talked a lot about KPIs, so your key performance indicators. So looking at your cash flow, looking at your the average cost of your goods, looking at the average sales that you're getting in, so the average profit per good, and really looking at those numbers to make determinations based off of your businesses. So we need to go back from not relying on feelings, but relying on facts when it comes to our businesses, so that we could see if something's being sustainable and if something could be scalable. Because a lot of us too, we build businesses that don't fit our lifestyles, but relying on those KPIs could help.
KPIs.
Key performance indicators.
Key performance indicators. And what is that young lady's name again?
Kendra James Anderson. She's the CEO and the founder of the Finance Femme. So she's a virtual CFO from a corporate finance background.
Cool. So you did the Money Talk tours. Which different cities did you visit?
So we started off in Houston, kicked it off in Houston. We went to Austin and did a nice intimate dinner, VIP dinner there. And then we wrapped up in Dallas on October 10th. That was the last one in Dallas.
And how long did it take you to plan this tour?
Oh, my God. So I started planning this tour. So I knew last year when I hosted the first event in Austin, the inaugural Money Talks event, I knew that I wanted to plan it again for 2019.
Okay.
And so speaking of like leveling up, in 2019, this was in February, I was coming out of like my planning hiatus, and I was really starting to get into the point where I felt like I had a lot of imposter syndrome going on in January. It was weird. Like, I knew that I was going to take a break between my holiday party and hosting my first 2019 event. But when it was time for me to start planning that, I just felt scared. Like, I felt like, is what I'm doing, is it still relevant? Are people still going to be excited about this? And so I told myself, Christa, stop playing small. And that was like my motto. It was like, just stop playing small. Just make big, bold moves. Just move. And so that's when I decided in February that I was going to host a tour in Texas, because Texas is a big pond.
Right.
So I was like, let's keep it close to home.
And I always tell people the beauty of Texas is a state that has a lot of diverse cities, right? Mm-hmm. Austin is not San Antonio. San Antonio is not Houston, and Houston is not Dallas.
Right.
They are very distinct cities
Very distinct.
with, distinct cultures and, point of view. So going through visiting Texas is like going to 4 different states. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. The culture was so different in each city. I loved it.
But I want to know this. What made you kick off your inaugural event in Austin opposed to Houston?
No, I did it in Houston.
Okay.
The inaugural was in Houston.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, because I thought you said Austin. Did you do something in Austin a year before?
So Houston was the first event in 2018, and that's where we focused on the salary gap.
Okay.
Because the salary gap is important, but the wealth gap is what's really going to hurt women, because we live longer, we are paid less over our career span, and then also we take breaks for familial reasons. So for pregnancy, for caregiving for our elderly parents, and so the wealth gap is something that we tackled for this Money Talks tour.
Okay. So what is next for the Money Talk tour?
What is next? Oh my gosh, there's so many different possibilities.
There
So I know people are still begging me to bring Cubicles to Cocktails to other cities, and that's still on my radar. But for the Money Talks tour, I'm thinking that I want to take a deeper dive and maybe do like a half day or a 1 day style conference, really just around women and career. And the reason why is because it's great to have those conversations and to introduce topics. But in a day's worth of span, we could have workshops, so you could really sit down and like learn how to invest and like get started then. Or we could do we could still have those panel conversations. We could have masterclass sessions. There's so much more canvas to play with when you do a conference as opposed to a 2 to 3 hour pop-up.
And I think whether it's a 2 to 3 hour pop-up or a conference, the continuity, staying connected.
Yes.
Keeping each other accountable, because at the end of the day, you can go to a conference and feel amazing.
Right.
You can go to this masterclass session and feel amazing, but how do you keep that momentum going? And don't get me wrong, we're going to have some sag moments and some spurts, right? But how do you keep it going so it won't be such a huge gap?
Right.
Because there's great information that needs to be applied throughout the entire year. So just creating that community, and a lot now, we have a lot of virtual spaces.
Exactly. And so I know right now for Cubicles to Cocktails, we have a newsletter community. And so I work on sending out newsletters, and I try to keep them value packed. So I'm linking out to articles where that I found helpful, or that I think somebody may found helpful. And we're actually in the process of planning to launch our digital platform, as well as looking into ways, as I mentioned earlier, of helping us to keep connected throughout the year instead of just at those pop-up occasions.
So how do you keep this energy going for you? Like, what keeps you motivated?
What keeps me motivated? I love to grow. I love to learn. Growing up, my parents and everybody around me, they always called me a sponge, just because I'm constantly taking in the environment. I'm meeting new people. I'm learning and exploring new ideas. And so just like challenging myself and really just continuously evolving as a woman, I think I know that's like what keeps me going.
Okay, that's what keeps you going. What do you do to stay inspired?
To stay inspired.
Like, what inspires you? Who inspires you? Do you read a lot of books?
I read so much. Like, I read everything. So reading and music, and also food and drink.
Let's not forget that.
That inspires me. So reading books. I know, like, right now I'm reading Quiet. The Power of Introverts in a World That Won't Stop Talking. That's a book by Susan Cain. And that book, I picked it up because people think I'm extroverted because of what I do. As a business owner, you have to constantly be in people's spaces. You have to constantly talk up so that you could spread the word about what you are doing. But at the events, especially at the events, I'm like toast. I'm out for the whole weekend, just sleeping the whole time because I'm exhausted. And that's because I'm truly an introvert by nature. And so I'm reading that book to really just learn more about introverts and how we're truly powerful in a world that doesn't necessarily really respect introverts.
So what have you learned so far?
So what have I learned so far? So I just started the book.
Okay.
But so far,
but I mean, powerful. The cover, the title alone.
The cover alone, right?
Yes.
So
I'm an extroverted person, but I would love to know the ins and outs of an introvert.
Right.
Because I think it takes different people to make the world go round. Everybody can't be bubbly and bouncy all the time, right?
Right.
Somebody got to fall back and be a little more inward. So I would love to know. That's an interesting book.
So one of the things that I've learned so far from the book is that there's a lot of people, and I'm not surprised, but there's a lot of CEOs, a lot of people in high positions that are truly introverts.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned that I know this personally, but that I'm not alone when it comes to going to church as an introvert. It's it's kind of stressful to have to grease your neighbor. You know?
Yes.
I'm just
laughing right now because you seem so bubbly. I don't even get this introvert. And when I met you initially, you said you were introvert. I just don't get that. And do people tell you that all the time?
So that's the thing. I don't introversion has nothing to do with that. The personality. I don't think. I think it has a lot to do with how you recharge and where you get your energy. And so I talk a lot. I really do. I talk a lot. I've always talked a lot, but at the end of the day, when I go home, I'm pretty much disconnected, and I look when people call me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk. I just need to be able to draw into myself, start reading, spend time eating and drinking wine with my husband, and just really recharge.
Oh, I gotta dive deeper into that then, because I must be an introvert.
You may be.
Because I definitely like alone time. That is my recharge. It's nothing for me to whenever I'm in that zone of want to recharge and regroup and get it together, it's nothing for me to ignore phone calls. I didn't think that was an introverted moment.
Yeah.
I just thought that was me time. Just getting it together, But I definitely need to be alone to recharge. I am definitely that person.
You may be an introvert. There's a website called 16 Personalities. So on 16 Personalities, it's kind of similar to the Myers-Briggs. You could do a quiz, a self-assessment, and they would place you into quadrants along the introversion and the extroversion. I can't think of the word, but you know what I'm trying to say. That spectrum. There we go. The spectrum. And so I'm an INFJ. And believe it or not, a lot of bloggers, I started Cubicles to Cocktails for me came out of a creativity spurt that I had when I first launched my own personal blog. I don't keep it up anymore, that blog. But from that blog, and after taking that, learning that I'm an INFJ, actually a lot of people's favorite bloggers are actually INFJs too.
Really? So what does INFJ stand for?
It's introversion, it's intuition, feeling, and judgment. Not judgment in a I'm giving you the side eye sense, but just making decisions.
Okay. All right. So I'm definitely, for real, I'm going to take that test tonight. I love assessments. I definitely love assessments because it always tells you something about yourself that you know and that you didn't know. A lot of times the assessments are 85, 90% out dead on. And you're that's 15 to 10% oh, I didn't know that about me. But you know what? That is true. I never realized that. I never took notice, but oh yeah, that is true.
Yeah, no, I think this is the one of the two personality assessments that I've taken that was spot on for me.
Have you done the Strength Finder test?
I haven't done the Strength Factors test, but the other assessment that I thought was very helpful for me is career oriented. It's called the DISC assessment, DISC. And I ended up landing on their introvert spectrum very, very heavily, 95% introvert.
Yeah, Strength Finder is pretty good because it really identifies your strengths. And things that you wouldn't think were strengths. You're like, oh, okay. Like, you're strong in the area. Not so much strong. I wouldn't say strong, but that's something that you're passionate about or that you're really into. And it's like it's a strength. For instance, I'm big on relationships, friendship, marriage, and things of that nature. Just relationships in general. Your relationship at work. I believe relationships dictate the morale of whatever environment you're in. If the relationships aren't right, it's a hostile environment, right? When relationships are good, it's a more warm and welcome environment. So I'm big on relationships. And with that being said, so it's like, you definitely have to treat people a certain way so these relationships can be healthy. But on the Strength Finder, Relator was my like high strength.
Okay.
And I was like, really? I wouldn't even think of relationships being a strength. Even though I know they mean a lot to me, I wouldn't consider that a strength. But it makes sense because relationships are really major. Like time. Time is, also a asset. Relationships can be an asset. Money is an asset. So, assets come in all different forms.
Definitely.
So the DISC.
Yes.
And a 16 personality.
16 personalities.
I'm definitely going to try to take those.
Those are great.
I love those assessments. So do you travel a lot?
So this year has definitely been a year of travel. So I went to Cancun I think 3 times this year. Once with a girlfriend and her friend group, and in February. Then for the Maitoshi retreat. I can't remember the 3rd time, but it was a blast. And we went to Napa and Sonoma for our anniversary trip. And
for the Cubicles.
Wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, so we took a late anniversary trip, and so it was for his 30th birthday and for our 3-year anniversary, and so we spent time there. Went to Lake Tahoe for a wedding. Just got back to from San Antonio this weekend from another wedding, and so we like to travel. I'm trying to make some more international trips, but I really just been enjoying the moments where I could explore other places in the United States, because you don't have to go far to explore things. Like, there's so much culture in all the cities that you visit.
One thing about the United States, we really pretty much have, and I'm not going to say everything, like we don't have a Sistine Chapel, right? But we have mountains, we have lakes, rivers, big cities, a lot of sights to see, historical things to see, and that's what you kind of travel international for those things. And there's a lot of things right here in the United States. That's one of my bucket list goals, to visit every state in the union.
Oh yeah.
So I have 9 years to do that, 8 years and 9 months to do that.
Oh, you could do it.
Yeah, by my 50th birthday. So I'm at 25 or 26 states now.
And I think it's important. I didn't grow up in Texas, but I think it's important for Texans to get out of the state, because I learned a lot of us stay here. Even it's kind of I know people who have previously worked with my husband, who the first time on a plane was for a work trip, and there's just so much culture. My parents really instilled in us the love for community and for culture, and we would just take road trips. So I'm not against a 15-hour car ride to go see something. There's a lot of different opportunity.
Where you from originally?
Chicago.
No, traveling definitely opens up your mind. It gets you, even, it's so crazy. And I think people are guilty of this, and even, in all cities. You live in a neighborhood, you grew up in a neighborhood, and you don't visit the other side of town. Something as small as within your own city. You don't even visit the 4 corridors of your whole city, and so that makes you close-minded, because you're stuck on the south side or you're stuck on the north side. And then when you leave outside of your city or your state, you're like, oh, this is different. I think traveling definitely opens up your mind. I think that's the beauty of going to college out of state. For a lot of people who have never been anywhere, and you leave, and it's like, okay, I can survive somewhere else. Yeah. And if you can survive one city, I feel like you can survive another city. Did you go to school out of state?
So
outside of Chicago?
So yeah, so I'm actually, that's how I got introduced to Houston, as far as living here. Okay. So I came down for school at Rice University, and then I briefly moved over to DC in 2012, and then I came back to start school again at Rice. And so I love Houston. I love being in Texas. I love how big the state is to explore, but I at the end of the day, I know I really do like adventure, and I tell my husband all the time, I kind of want to just move for a couple of years and really explore new, living full term in a new city, but then coming back to Houston, because Houston just has my heart.
Houston has your heart. So what does your husband say about that?
He laughs.
Because men are like they're a tough sell. They're a tough sell. Like a few years, did he come back?
Like he wants to move, but like like the limits, the options are a little bit more limited because Texas has you spoiled too with the no income tax.
Cost of living to get you every time. Affordable housing.
Yeah, and the places that I would kind of want to explore more on like the east or the west coast.
Get a little more expensive. What are your East Coast cities?
East Coast cities, definitely DC. Not New York City. That's a lot for me.
Okay.
I think that's the introvert, but I can see me like maybe doing something in like maybe Pennsylvania or in Charlotte. I heard it's like on and popping.
Charlotte is progressing.
So I can see that. West Coast cities though, the traditional like San Fran, Bay Area.
Okay.
Just because like I'm into tech. I'm a bioengineer by training, so I really like the tech industry. So
San Fran, only one place over there.
San Fran, maybe LA. Maybe. My sister lives in LA.
What about Seattle?
Seattle, I actually I'm trying to think, have I ever been to Seattle? I haven't been to Seattle yet. I like the sunlight.
Yeah, it's a lot of rain.
That's the thing. It's a lot of rain.
A little doom and gloom.
Yeah, but I'm open to exploring as long as the city is like, diverse, has a little bit more, or at least a community for progressives, because I am, pretty liberal and progressive myself, and I would say a thriving Black community too, or a well connected. I don't want to, like, not a fragmented, Black community. I think that's a city that I could potentially, enjoy for a few years.
So I have a question for you. Tech. You say tech is your, biotech is your career, right? The industry you're in. What made you select that industry?
Well, I just knew that I wanted to do engineering in high school, like when I was, applying for college. I knew it was going to be either architecture or engineering.
Okay.
Right. And I wanted to get into the best school I could for either program. And so when it was time to apply and I was looking at architecture programs, like I toured schools with these amazing architecture programs, I learned that you had to have a portfolio. To get in. And I didn't have a portfolio because I went to a high school that didn't have like these type of programs, and as my family didn't know anything about how to get accepted to these top programs either. So it's like, okay, well, if architecture's out the window, then let's look at engineering. What are all the disciplines? And so I remember going to a panel by Society of Women Engineers, and they had one woman from each engineering discipline at Purdue University. And so I remember falling in love with the details of mechanical engineering, surprisingly, and also biomedical engineering. And so when I heard about biomedical engineering, I've always been a health science nerd, always liked living systems and things. I was like, that's it.
That's me.
So I've been in healthcare ever since.
So is that compared to all the different other disciplines in engineering, is that a newer?
It is a newer field of engineering. It came about because the body is a system. And when you think about engineering, your engineering systems, and so like a mechanical or civil engineer, they are looking maybe at how the earth moves, or how to construct a building that's safe. And so with biomedical engineering, when you think about your hips or your skin and things like that, you could apply these different other engineering disciplines to that system. And so biomedical engineering is all about looking at your body in a way, or the healthcare world in a way where you could engineer solutions to make living better.
So for somebody who is coming who's come out of college, and they picking a type of engineer based on pay.
Yes.
Is that one of the higher paying?
So I'm like, that's a tricky question because it always depends on like where you fall.
Okay.
I would say my personal experience with bioengineering. So I don't practice, but I've been always in healthcare because of what opportunities my degree has afforded me. Pay is nice, but I would say that for people considering any engineering discipline, you want to consider what your end goal is. And then for bioengineering, if you are able to, I would say take it a step further. Are you looking to go get your PhD? Are you looking to go straight into industry? If you are looking to go straight into industry, depending on what school you're going to in biomedical engineering, you may have to go and get a master's before you'll be able to get into that entry-level position, because the discipline is newer. And granted, like, I'm out of college since 2012, so it may be a little bit shifted, but since the industry is newer, some firms, they look at biomedical engineers as not specialized enough and that they could just teach the mechanical engineer the biology, which I totally disagree with. So you just have to like think about those nuances of what is your true career path. Most of us from Rice University at the time that I was graduating, most of us went on to get PhDs, or we went to medical school, and the rest of us are doing some type of industry adjacent, or we went on to get a master's so that we could practice.
So is a PhD in your future?
Oh, no, man.
You're like, nah, I'm a pass.
No, I'm good.
So, any babies?
No, man.
No babies? Okay, no babies coming up. So what does the future look like for you? 2020 and beyond.
2020 and beyond. I would say, I have some pretty ambitious financial goals. My like home ownership, being debt free, like really soon, like investing, learning how to actually like invest beyond the passive investing. It's good to invest however you can. I contribute 9% of my salary towards my retirement fund. But I want to learn how to be more active and hands-on, maybe learning how to like day trade a little bit. So a lot of financial goals, business goals. I really do want to scale Cubicles to Cocktails. I love what I'm doing, and I love connecting with people at these pop-up events. But like I mentioned, having the more regular, more community-driven events, as well as more of a digital platform to really connect across state lines. So that's like on that front. And health, just getting fit. I'm 29 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just had a birthday last week.
Yes.
So big 30 next year. 30th birthday in 2020.
So I want to, I want to get fit. I've been really kind of dedicated to a wellness routine and, mental health and getting my monthly massages and going to the gym, running. Like, I'm not against fitness, but I really want it to become more of like that lifestyle. Like
just
that
naturally,
fitness,
like every day.
Right? Like lifting weights. Like I think the most weights that I lift is maybe like a 15-pound kettlebell, but I really want to get to the point where I'm like maybe bench pressing like 200 pounds or something insane.
It can happen. It just takes behavior change, discipline, and consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency. Well, thank you so much, Christa, for sharing with us today and joining me today on the Fitness Female Best Wishes with the Money Talks. And
thank you.
From Cubicles to Cocktails. Best wishes with that. And also your financial endeavors. I'm all with that. I need the finances and I need the fitness too. Until next time. Bye.